They told you that lust was harmless, that indulgence was freedom, that desire had no cost so long as it stayed behind closed doors. But what they never told you was this, that a man without control over his instincts is a man already enslaved, not by chains, not by whips, but by his own biology, hijacked, rewired, and sold back to him in high definition. There is no God in porn, but there is worship, there is ritual, there is submission, and like all religions, it promises ecstasy without sacrifice, heaven without the cross, fulfillment without the fire. But unlike the ancient gods who demanded courage, silence, strength, and the facing of one's shadow, this new God asks only for your gaze and gives you nothing in return but a flickering image and an empty soul. This isn't about morality. This is about metaphysics. Because when a man gives his energy to something that offers no reciprocal growth, no feedback from the real, no challenge, no meaning, he is not just numbing himself, he is disintegrating. And no empire falls faster than the one that collapses from within. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Porn has become that absurdity. A digital veil, stitched from pixels and fantasy, separating the modern man from the one thing he cannot live without, authentic experience, real connection, the raw, unfiltered mirror of selfhood that doesn't lie to him. You want to know why you feel tired after you indulge? Not just physically, but existentially. It's not because your body's exhausted, it's because your spirit has been starved. You are meant to chase dragons, not dopamine. You are meant to face rejection, not artificial perfection. You are meant to bleed for something real, not melt into the screen in search of something that was never there. Because every time you click, you're not just watching, you are outsourcing your masculinity. You are telling the unconscious mind, I am not worthy of reality. I prefer illusion. I choose the synthetic over the sacred. And your psyche listens every single time. Imagine a boy, maybe 10, maybe 12, alone in his room. No rite of passage, no elder guidance, no cultural myth to shape his becoming, only a phone, only unlimited access to images that once required journey, mystery, and initiation. He thinks he's becoming a man, but he's only becoming numb, detached, wired for response, but not responsibility, trained to consume the symbol of the feminine without ever understanding her mystery. And so he grows older, but never deeper. He touches bodies, but never souls. He hears moans, but never meaning. He knows nothing of the real woman, only her commodified echo, looped endlessly on the altar of algorithmic addiction. This is the religion of the lost male, a belief system without belief, a priesthood of influencers and OnlyFans demigods, a liturgy of likes, clips, and thumbnails. Its holy water is novelty. Its prayer is instant gratification. Its sacrament is shame wrapped in pleasure. And the cost? Intimacy dies. Drive disappears. Confidence withers. Because nature does not reward the man who simulates life. She rewards the man who shows up to it. Think about the war machines of ancient empires. Think about Sparta. Think about Rome. Think about the samurai, the knights, the men who were forged in pain, fire, rejection, and conquest. What would they say if they saw their descendants on their knees, not praying, not sharpening swords, but tapping, scrolling, clicking, drowning not in blood or battle, but in orgasmic apathy? You were not built for this. You were not meant to live behind a screen. Your biology screams for meaning. Your archetypes ache to be activated. The warrior, the lover, the king, the magician, they all sleep in you. And porn is the lullaby that keeps them sedated. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. Every time you resist, you win. not just against addiction, but against the entire system designed to break you. Every moment you reclaim your gaze, you steal power back from the gods of distraction. You tell the world, my energy is sacred. My vision is mine. I choose depth over dopamine. I choose to be awake. This is not about abstinence. This is about reverence for your seed, for your spirit, for your future. Because the man who cannot guard his own temple will never build one that others respect. And make no mistake, there is a war on the masculine soul. But it's not fought with bullets. It's fought with subtlety, with screens, with algorithms that learn your loneliness and feed it back to you like a drug. A hit, a loop of despair disguised as desire. The modern man must become a mystic with discipline, a monk with fire in his chest, a lover who loves the real, not the reduced, a king who guards the gates of his mind as if they were the gates to an empire. Because they are. You want to lead. Learn to lead yourself first. You want to be desired. Stop outsourcing your desire. You want to be respected. Start by respecting the invisible laws that govern your energy. Your attention is currency, and you're spending it in a place that only leaves you poorer. Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. But porn trains you to look outside, to crave without questioning, to watch instead of feel, to react instead of become. You are not meant to be a spectator of life. You are meant to penetrate it with intention, with intensity, with presence. The masculine isn't a costume. It's not about bravado or suppression. It's about embodiment. And embodiment demands sacrifice. So, what will you sacrifice? The fake for the real? The temporary for the timeless? The pixel for the pulse? This is the call, not from me, from your soul, from the ancient part of you that remembers the hunt, that longs for the journey, that burns not for the image of the woman, but for the divine chaos of who she truly is. Answer it. Let the false gods starve. Let your fire return. But what does fire need to survive? Oxygen and boundaries? Fire without limits becomes wildfire, destructive, consuming everything, even what it was meant to protect. And this is the fate of unchecked desire. Lust without purpose is entropy. It devours the soul from within. You think you're chasing freedom, but you're really burning the map that leads to it. In every ancient culture, the male initiation was brutal for a reason. It wasn't cruelty, it was necessity. They knew what we've forgotten, that the undisciplined man is dangerous not to the world, but to himself. His own passions, untested, undirected, and unconfronted, will always eat him alive. That's what this culture of digital indulgence has done. It's removed the firewalls around desire, and now boys play with fire, not knowing that every click feeds the part of them that refuses to grow, not knowing that pleasure without restraint becomes poison, sweet at first, then sour, then slow death of spirit. And the tragedy, they call it empowerment, they call it liberation, they call it choice. But choice without wisdom is just chaos wearing a mask. You were not given instincts to be enslaved by them. You were given instincts to be refined by them, tamed like wild horses, directed like flowing water through the channel of will. Porn, short circuits that process. It offers the fruit without the tree, the climax without the climb, the image without the soul. This is not the path of the warrior. This is not the path of the sovereign. This is the path of sedation. And so the modern male is sedated by ease, drowned in novelty, buried in algorithms designed to trap his attention, wanders not in forests but in feeds. He builds no temples, scales no mountains, leads no tribes. He collects trophies of pixels, not victories of the spirit. But beneath the numbness, he feels it, the ache, the silent voice whispering, that this is not who he was meant to be, that his strength wasn't designed to be wasted in the dark, alone, with his essence spilling into nothingness, that the king within him is still waiting for the day he will rise, not with rage, not with shame, but with clarity. The day he will walk away from the altar of artificial ecstasy and return to the sacred pain of becoming. Because real life hurts. Real women challenge you. Real intimacy demands vulnerability. And it is this pain, this friction, this divine confrontation that forges the man. Not the moment of pleasure, but the moment you resist it. The moment you say no, not to desire, but to its counterfeit. To reclaim your masculinity, you must first reclaim your eyes. The eyes are not just organs of sight, they are gates. What you allow through them becomes what you become. When you look at something long enough, it doesn't just enter your memory, it enters your myth. It shapes your internal world. And over time, it sculpts your soul. The man addicted to porn is not just indulging in pleasure. He's reshaping his entire psychic architecture, wiring himself to believe that intimacy is performance, that love is transaction, that women are objects, and that the self is something to be drowned, not discovered. He doesn't know it, but he's building a temple to his own insignificance. This is why the path back isn't just about abstinence, it's about reconstruction. You must rebuild what porn has dismantled. You must remember what it means to sit with longing and not escape it. What it means to desire something and let that desire shape you into someone worthy of it. What it means to face the void of loneliness, not with shame, but with sacred curiosity. You must learn to convert your sexual energy, not suppress it, not ignore it, but transmute it into vision, into purpose, into art, into presence, into sacred rage against the forces that told you your soul was something to be bartered for a moment of escape. This is alchemy, the internal transformation of lead into gold, instinct into power, lust into legacy. And it is your birthright, but it cannot be downloaded, it cannot be fast-tracked. It requires sacrifice, it requires stillness, it requires a brutal honesty with the parts of you that have grown soft under the weight of false pleasure. Ask yourself, what kind of man are you becoming? Because every day, every choice, every indulgence or denial, every gaze you allow or redirect, that is the blueprint, that is the ritual. You are either training yourself for sovereignty or seduction, for kingship or comfort, for truth or illusion. And the cost of comfort is always your crown. So rise, not with guilt, not with shame, but with fire, with vision, with the fierce grace of a man who has remembered who he is. Because porn is not the enemy. You are. Your unexamined hunger, your unchallenged beliefs, your refusal to confront the silence between your desires and your destiny. But that can change. It changes the moment you choose to feel what you've been fleeing, to step into the fire and not run, to stare down your addictions like a warrior entering battle not with hatred, but with holy resolve. There is no salvation in pixels, but there is resurrection in choice. And every time you choose depth over distraction, every time you resist the easy path and take the sacred one, every time you say, I am not a machine, I am not a slave, I am not a ghost living behind a screen, you resurrect the forgotten male spirit. And that spirit, it doesn't beg, it builds. It doesn't scroll, it seeks. It doesn't watch, it witnesses. It doesn't fantasize, it creates. This is your inheritance. Not shame, not sedation, but strength. And the moment you remember it, the world begins to remember you. And yet, here's the twisted irony. The more you consume it, the more invisible you become. Not just to others, but to yourself. The man who gorges on artificial intimacy loses the gravity of his presence. He walks into rooms like smoke, formless, fading, forgettable, because presence is forged in the furnace of denial. And he has never denied himself anything. You can always recognize him. His eyes avoid depth. His posture lacks anchor. His voice lacks edge. Not because he's broken, but because he's been slowly hollowed out by indulgence without initiation. He has not wrestled with his inner chaos. He has only escaped it. But this kind of man cannot lead. He cannot love. He cannot hold the weight of another's soul because he hasn't yet earned the weight of his own. Porn doesn't just rob you of discipline. It robs you of consequence. It simulates what should be earned and delivers it without risk. And what is intimacy without risk? Illusion. What is pleasure without effort? Deception. What is the feminine without the sacred? A shell. This new religion of the lost male teaches men to sacrifice everything sacred on the altar of comfort. And in return, they receive nothing but a memory of what they could have been. The hunger remains. But the hunger no longer builds, it devours. Because real hunger, the hunger for love, for connection, for purpose, it sharpens a man. It drives him to sculpt his body, refine his word, elevate his vision. But the false hunger, the artificial craving born from dopamine loops and endless novelty, it dulls him, numbs him, turns his life into a repeating cycle of emptiness mistaken for pleasure. This is spiritual erosion, a slow, invisible decay of the masculine essence. And most never see it because they've never known anything else. But you feel it, don't you? That flicker, that primal whisper saying, this isn't it. That faint memory of a version of you who was born for more than comfort. A version who was meant to build empires of the soul, not escape into shadows. That version still lives in you. Caged, yes, but not dead. And the key to that cage, it's in your hands. It always was. You reclaim it not by fighting porn, but by becoming too strong to need it, too whole to chase fragments, too rooted to be pulled by shallow urges. Because the real masculine doesn't run from desire, it transmutes it. It channels it into work, into craft, into mission, into sacred pursuit of the real woman, not her distorted echo, into the act of becoming the kind of man who can actually hold the gaze of the divine feminine and not flinch, not perform, but truly meet her, fully, fiercely, silently. That kind of man doesn't click, he doesn't scroll, he doesn't beg for pixels. He commands attention without asking for it because he's already earned his own. And that is what this war is about. Your attention, your essence, your will. Because if they can control what you crave, they never have to control what you do. You'll do it to yourself. You'll build your own cage with your own hands, with your own cravings, with your own repeated, unconscious surrender to the easiest form of dying, the kind that feels like pleasure but ends in decay. Porn is the perfect drug. Cheap, accessible, anonymous, endless, no scars, no confrontation, no meaning. But you must understand it is not the screen that enslaves you. It's your refusal to feel, to grieve, to sit with the emptiness and not run, to ask why you reach for it, not just what you get from it, to face your soul and not flinch. Jung taught that the shadow must be integrated, not ignored. And what is porn but the most seductive shadow? The part of you that wants conquest without courage, release without revelation, the illusion of connection without the terror of being truly seen. To evolve past it, you don't kill desire, you honor it, you sanctify it, you tell it, you belong to something higher now. And then you climb, one choice at a time. You don't just stop watching, you start living, you train, you build, you serve. You speak. You hold eye contact. You create in the image of your highest self. You stop being a consumer of cheap ecstasy and start becoming a conduit of divine energy. This is how you exit the religion. Not with shame, but with initiation. Because every time you sacrifice the lower, you are not losing something, you are becoming something. Every denial is a brick in the cathedral of your soul. Every resisted urge is a reminder, I own myself. And when a man owns himself, he cannot be bought. Not by screens, not by fantasies, not even by his own fear. He becomes legend, not in the eyes of the world, but in the mirror, where it matters most. So look there, not with guilt, with reverence, because the battle you fight is sacred, and you are not alone in it. Then stand up, not just from the chair, but from the version of yourself that tolerated this numbness. Rise from the altar where you sacrificed your essence to false gods. Shake the dust of shame from your shoulders. Look your weakness in the face and smile, not because you're proud of it, but because now, finally, you are done hiding from it. Let this be the moment. The rebellion doesn't need banners or violence. It needs presence. It needs you, alone, in the silence, choosing to no longer be a slave to your own avoidance. That is revolution. That is resurrection. The world does not need more men who scroll. It needs more men who see, who can sit in their solitude and not be crushed by it, who can walk through the fire of temptation and emerge forged, who can claim their desire without being devoured by it, who can hold the chaos of the feminine without collapsing or controlling. This is not the path for many. It is not popular. It is not easy. And it does not come with applause. But it is the only path that leads to your throne. Because in a world trying to turn you into a consumer, the greatest rebellion is to become a creator. You were not born to chase shadows. You were born to bring light to them. So become the man your soul has begged you to be. Let your mind be still. Let your body be disciplined. Let your heart be fierce and open. Let your eyes reflect truth, not fantasy. Let your voice speak from the depth of earned silence. Let your energy resonate, wasted, not fractured, but focused, directed like a blade, sacred like a prayer. This is the end of the illusion and the beginning of the return, not to who you were, but to who you were always meant to be. You are no longer the lost male. You are the one who remembered. Now go. Walk out of the screen. Walk into the storm. Walk into the real. And let the world meet a man who bowed to nothing but his own soul.